everyone, hi. This is Drifter. I'm gonna be making a pick-by-pick tutorial for an arena game in Hearthstone with Jaina, the Mage.
You asked for it.
The reason I picked Jaina is because she has a very powerful hero ability, hero power. I really don't like the warrior or the armor up. It gives you 0 board control, which is a big problem in the arena. Though its weapons are really strong, I usually feel it's not worth it. I had some success with him, but nevertheless. And the rogue is very interesting. It's pretty difficult to play correctly, I feel. It relies heavily on combo cards and a lot of aggression. So Jaina is a very safe, control-ish pick. So I'll go with her. Now, wow, and a dilemma right at the start. So basically, anything that works well with Murlocs is useless in the arena. There's absolutely no chance to pick a good arena deck based on Murlocs. Really impossible, so drop it. The Secret Keeper is pretty good, but I don't want to commit. I don't know if I'll have many, if any, secrets in the deck. And basically for 1 mana, 1/2 creature, usually it's not worth the card, so I'll go with the safe pick, the heavy drop in the late game. As a mage, I can usually afford it, because mage usually doesn't rely very heavily on early aggression, so usually I'll take control of the game and then win slowly. Anyway, but here I'll just contradict myself and pick a Mana Worm because it's really, really good. Just a good card. I think the Murloc Tidehunter is okay, but I feel that good first drops are very hard to come by, and second drops are, well, they're plentiful, and besides, we have a very good hero power. Half the time you can shoot someone down with the hero power. Well, usually they won't play a card with 1 toughness, but at least you block that option. So I'll go with the Mana Worm. Sometimes it reaches very high numbers on the attack. This is an easy pick. I'll go with the removal spell. It deals with any creature. Basically, I'm pretty afraid of really big creatures that I can't kill with damage, like Frostbolts, etc. So I'll go with the Polymorph. This is again an interesting pick. The Murloc deck, we said, is irrelevant, but the mirror image is actually much better than I thought initially. It really annoys, well, your enemy. It's very cheap. It buys you time. Actually, I just convinced myself I'll go with the mirror image, though the Stormwind Knight is very decent. It's a good surprising 4th drop. It can usually trade with someone, but I'll go with the mirror image. Besides the spell, it helps with the Mana Warp. Yeah. Okay, here there's simply no dilemma at all. Anything that kills a lot of enemy creatures is a must pick. Okay, so the Loot Hoarder is actually pretty good. It's a good 2-drop. The Dread Corsair is irrelevant for a mage deck, but Flamestrike is awesome. Okay, moving on. This is actually, again, an interesting question, because all 3 of them are very decent commons, but the Berserker, the Gurubashi Berserker, has an advantage because I can trigger his ability with my hero power. On the other hand, the Brewmaster is a solid 2-drop basically. But nevertheless, I can sometimes randomly win with the Berserker. If he's left unchecked for like a couple of turns, he becomes a really big problem. the enemy. Okay, this is a question of taste. I don't like gaining 8 life or armor, doesn't matter, for 3 mana. Though sometimes it scares the enemy because, there's a secret on board, he doesn't know what's going on, but usually, I mean, he plays something, he sees that it's not a mirror image, and he just moves on. He will attack with something into my ice barrier, so I'm not a big fan of this card. Nightblade, well, there are different opinions. Basically, the 4/4 body is not a good pick. It's not good value for 5 mana. The damage to the enemy hero, I don't feel it's very useful in our deck. Mostly because either we win because we took control of the game or used some cost-effective creatures in the beginning to set on tempo, but basically it's almost never a damage race. If it's a damage race, I think I'm in trouble. Usually, and Archive Missiles, well, it's not a great card, but I think it sometimes will kills an enemy creature, which is wonderful. I will never play it if it only hits the enemy hero. It's not worth it. And it's a spell. I like spells. Spells are important. Okay, now this is a really easy pick. This guy is simply too fragile for 7 mana, and I don't like the abusive sergeant because, well, it's not I don't want to put him, well, on the first turn because of the battle cry. I know, I feel that the loot hoarder is very solid. You can see in the mana curve that we didn't pick any 2 drops yet, which is, by the way, kind of surprising that we have no 2 or 3 drops and 7 cards. It's pretty unusual, but that's okay. I'm gonna pick them up now. Okay, once again, Flame Strike. It's just too good to pass up. The Mad Bomber is quite good. I like him more and more the more I play him, actually. But the Flame Strike is simply too powerful to pass up. Notice that we're kind of top heavy, okay? The Flame Strike is okay that it's so expensive, but in general we should aim for lower cost creatures now. All 3 of them are decent. The Demolisher is very good. The Sunfury Protector is pretty good as well. It's much more situational because, on the second turn its battle cry is practically always wasted. Though it has decent stats. He is a 4/3 for 3 mana, which is not bad already. The fact that it's injured doesn't help us at all, but it's actually very useful for example, a priest deck. But the Demolisher can sometimes really take control of the game. It works well with our Arcane Missiles and with the feel of the deck in general, of a mage deck. Yeah. Okay, now actually we're in trouble. Because the boar is simply not worth the card. I'm not sure I want to play with 2 mirror images, but I might not have a choice. And then Ice Lance is very situational. I have nothing right now, nothing at all. It freezes minions. So I would go with the mirror image, slightly begrudgingly. Okay, now this is very easy. Of course, a Harvest Golem, because it's simply very, very cost effective. For 3 mana you get like more or less 4/4 power toughness, but sometimes it's actually even better to have Death Rattle, because for example, against mass removal it's better than to have the creatures split into 2, right? Because he kills everything, but then I still have a creature and he has to deal with it. So, yeah. Okay. this is actually, well, it might be a dilemma, but it's not, because, well, the shield bearer is really not worth the card. The Iron Beak Owl is pretty good, but you really can't compete with a very decent power toughness guy, and sometimes a very powerful battle cry. Don't be afraid to play him on the second turn if you need the tempo. It's okay. Unless you're playing against a warrior, in which case hold him forever until you have a weapon to destroy. Oh, wonderful. We'll take another worm. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the Stormpike Commando. It can usually, well, it's kind of situational. Often it can trade with 2 small creatures, but I'm not sure I want a 5 mana dude to trade with 2 guys that are like 2-1 or 2-2 or something like that. Like compared with a Silverhand Knight, yeah, you get a 4/4 body and another 2/2, and he's in the opponent is in trouble. And considering the amount of spells we already have, a mana worm is very good. The Crusader is actually quite decent as well because of the Divine Shield. It depends on who you're facing, because, for example, well, basically any hero that can do 1 damage really decreases the value of the Scarlet Crusader. So basically, half the time it's pretty good, and half the time it's not very exciting. It trades with someone. So mana worm it is. Okay, the Ghoul is actually good. It took me a few games to get to convince myself that it is, but if it's left unchecked, it can actually grow into a monster. But once it's a good 3-drop, but it's situational, and the Fireball is actually, well, I mean, I will always be happy to draw a Fireball. It's cheap, it's removal, it can be a finisher, it's everything you ever dreamed of, and it's a spell for our worms. This is not an option, of course. For 6 mana you get 2 toughness, I don't care charge or not charge, it's awful. Great. Okay. The Infiltrator is not bad, but we have 4 1-mana drops, which is way more than I get usually in an arena deck. I'm in the school of thought that actually a mana curve is very important, even if you go for the more controlling version of gameplay. Because if you have cost-effective creatures that go down early, like a worm that becomes 2/3, 3/3, it really makes the other guy's life difficult. Yeah, so back to our business. So he's good, but I don't need the first 1-drop. I actually need stronger cards, even if they're more costly. Now, the Cone of Cold sometimes is very strong, and sometimes it's, well, not useless, but really not strong enough. And I feel that we have enough, let's say, mass removal, or like ping removal. Yeah, we have a Demolisher, we have Arcane Missiles, we have our hero power, of course. So unless I need the tempo swing that the freezing gives us, I'm not very excited about the Cone of Cold right now. The Gnomish inventory is always very solid. Yes, we don't have actually a creature in 4 mana right now, so I need creatures, definitely. And the ability is very good, obviously. 4 toughness is right in the right number not to die to random 2 and 3 drops. So I'm going with the Inventor. Okay. Well, yeah. The Spiteful Smith, well, though well, it's useless. The enrage ability doesn't help us, but he's actually pretty decent as a 4/6 on its own, if you have nothing else to pick. But I do, because I have a Frostbolt, which is actually very good. So I'll take that. It's a removal, it can swing the tempo, it's everything I need. Okay, now this is a more interesting pick. I'm not a big fan of counterspell in Arena. It is very powerful in a constructed control deck, if you know when to play it actually. But right now, as the only secret in my deck, definitely not a fan. Again, the Mage has a very decent body, okay, for 3 mana, but I have no secrets. And even if I did, actually, I would take this Rudrake anyway. It gives card advantage, it gives spell damage, which is the most important thing for a Mage deck. Notice, by the way, that this is the first time I see spell damage. So it's very important for a Mage deck, as you probably have guessed. Okay, great. I'm not taking a third mirror image. The Priestess of Elune is actually very expensive for her body, and the 4 health for the hero, I don't feel it's really important enough. I mean, if you hope that this is what's gonna save you, you're probably dead anyway. But fortunately, I have a very good card here. Again, a very good body as a second drop, and it's actually very annoying that you can't target it. For example, with my hero ability and spells, etc. A nice trick with the Fair Dragon: put it in the middle of your creatures to prevent stuff like Explosive Shot or Corn of Ice to hit like all 3 creatures that you have, because you can't target the Fairy Dragon. Okay, so the other guy has to choose which 2 he wants to hit. So I'll take the dragon. Okay, again, this is very bad. Actually very important in a constructed Murloc deck, but I'm not going into that right now. Mana Wraith, again, very good in a constructed Mage deck. Not very good 2-drop. I would actually consider taking it, because I'm more reliant on spells and cheap creatures and stuff than an average Arena deck. But I have an Imp Master, which is very, very good. Again, if left unchecked, it spawns a million, well, actually 5 1/1 imps. Actually, and not a bad body for 3 mana. Like it's pretty difficult to kill it. Yeah, it becomes 1/4 after the first turn that you end. The opponent has to deal with him, which is a good thing. You want to put down threats, and of course we're actually lacking 3-drops. We have only 2 3-drops, which is not enough. So I'll take the Imp Master. Okay, now we don't really have a choice. We'll take the Infiltrator, which is fine. Against any hero that can ping for 1, means a Rogue, a Mage, the Druid, etc. You probably want to leave him in stealth until you can trade with something. Like in the first 2 or 3 turns, either he will put down something with 2 toughness, or he won't, which is also an advantage. Yes, if you block his 2-drop because he doesn't want to trade with your first drop, you're in wonderful shape. So I'll take the Infiltrator. Interesting. Okay, now let's calculate. We're at 21 cards, so now is very important to pay attention to our mana curve. Basically, what I'm trying to say is whether I need another 2nd drop, or I can allow myself another removal spell. Notice that well, unlike a paladin, for example, sometimes our hero power is very useful. I really want to use it on the second turn, and sometimes I really don't because it's, I don't know, like ping the enemy for one, not very threatening. So I have 1, 2, 3, 2 drops that I actually want to play on the second turn, and a Frostbolt already. Let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spells. I think I would go with the Loot Hoarder. Usually it can create card advantage, and I feel that I need presence on the board in the beginning, and then hopefully kill off the dudes that he's playing later with my spells. So I'll go with the Loot Hoarder, but actually it's a tough decision. If you would go with the Frostbolt, it's a great choice as well. Okay, all of them are actually pretty good, or well, very good. But the Venture Core Mercenary is kind of broken, especially if you go second and you play him on the 4th turn. Like, even if you can't play any minions for a couple of turns, it really doesn't matter, especially in our deck when we have enough spells. He's such a big threat for his cost. Yeah, he's bigger than the 7 mana Stormwind champion, for example. That I'm definitely going with the Mercenary. Okay, wow, nice pick. Well, I really like both of them. I feel that the Knife Juggler is both more cost effective. Yeah, well, the questing adventurer, it's actually, well, it's situational. I mean, playing him on the 3rd turn is usually a problem, okay? Either because the enemy has something that can kill him, or because you will play a removal spell and kill him, etc. As he's very easy to kill on the 3rd, so basically I wouldn't play him as a 3rd drop. And the Knife Juggler is, well, is actually pretty good on its own, and yeah, it has good stats and a very useful ability if he survives the 1st turn. The 1st turn is life. Especially in a Mage deck, that you can randomly hit a 2 toughness creature or something and finish it off with a hero ability or a damage spell or anything. Yeah, so I'm gonna take the Juggler and hope for some lucky interaction. Okay. An Archmage is good, especially in our deck, and we actually are lacking 6 drops. So it's well, I was about to explain why a Novice Engineer is better. All 3 picks are decent, none of them is great. So I think I'm gonna go with the Archmage, simply because I'm kinda light on the top, on the big guys. And of course the spell damage is very useful in my deck. And because I have enough 2 drops, yeah. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the hero ability. Yeah. The intellect is pretty decent as well, yeah, so if you don't have anything better to pick, feel free. It's a very controlling card, yeah, because, well, you probably don't want to, if you cast it on the 3rd turn, you're probably in trouble because the other guy has a big tempo advantage on you. So I'll go with the Archmage. Whoa. Well, nope. The Mercenary is simply too strong to pass up. So I'll go with the Mercenary. As I said before, the Arcana Missiles are fine, but they're not amazing. And the Fire Dragon is, again, pretty good, but I have enough 2 drops, and I can sometimes randomly win with the Mercenary. Okay, this is a no-brainer. Finally, I said what I think about these two cards. The Defender of Argus is very good. It can swing games by itself sometimes. If you see that the tempo advantage is worth it, don't be afraid to play it, even if you only have one creature in play. So of course I'll go with the Defender of Argus. Besides, it's good for our mana curve. Okay. The Oracle is irrelevant. The Arcane Explosion, it's actually pretty good. It's a little bit situational. What actually really annoys me is that the Rogue has Fan of Knives, which is exactly the same, but for one more mana you get to draw a card after that, after the effect, which I definitely prefer. It gets better if you have multiple guys with spell power. I only have two. Yeah, I have the Archmage and the Drake, which is probably not enough. But the real important issue is that the Chillwind Yeti is very good, is very cost effective for 4 mana. So I'm gonna go with that. And I really want a third drop, but I don't have one. Again, the Abomination, sometimes it's very good, sometimes you really shouldn't play it because it will screw you over. Unlike the Defender of Argus, which is, well, it's even better if you're ahead, actually. The Abomination is a very defensive card. Yeah, it has taunt. The enemy has to kill it, and hopefully you wipe half his creatures with the Death Rattle. So situational, and I don't want to get too top heavy, yeah, on my mana curve. So I'll go with the Defender of Argus. 3 drop. Ah, oh man. Okay, this is a tough question, because I have only 3 third turn drops, which is definitely not enough. The problem is that the Mind Control deck, well, it's kind of situational. You can sometimes randomly get the really big or important guy, but usually if the enemy has 4 minions, either they're all small and you'll get like a 1/1 war or something, or you're so far behind that it's probably too late for you anyway. So I'll try to go with the tempo advantage of the Knife Juggler, and that's it. Wish me luck. I'm not happy with the dip, the 3 mana. I think that actually quite a lot of the games I'll go with a 1 drop on the third turn and either use my hero ability or a 2nd drop, which I have quite a lot as well. I have pretty cost-effective creatures, and I have a few bombs in the top of my mana curve. Pretty happy. It's not too top heavy, but I have some really powerful spells and guys that I can hope and win if the opponent has no answer. Well, and that's about it. I hope you learned something, and wish me luck. I'll be posting my games with this deck. Thank you. Bye.